And we welcome you back to our program. Well, much in the news these days deals with the financial situation and the banking industry here in the United States. And of course, we've seen the TARP a few months ago, and now the current various plans and programs coming to us from Washington, D.C. to maybe try and help and stabilize and in some ways rejuvenate our financial system. If you look at your stock report every night, it's pretty depressing. You see those red arrows pointing down as opposed to the green arrows pointing up, and it's got a lot of people concerned. Our next guest is an authority on the whole field of money and banking because he's the Executive Vice President of Farmers and Merchants Bank. Mr. W. Henry Walker joins us today. We welcome you, sir, to the program.
Thank you. Good to be here, Rob.
Good to have you on the program today. We know, of course, one of your branches right down the street from us here in Laguna Woods on Paseo de Valencia, so a lot of our folks here are already utilizing your facilities. We talk a lot about legacy and tradition. Your family actually got started in the banking business back in the Depression. Kind of a bad time to start a bank, I would think.
Actually, a little before the Depression. In 1907, we started in banking just a little over 100 years ago. And the bank was founded out of a recessionary time that hit this country in 1907. And the crisis was not too different than it is today. I was recently speaking on, the similarities of how the crisis has continued.
Yeah.
And in that particular event, there was a bank in Long Beach where they'd taken the capital, and instead of keeping it liquid and available, they put it into illiquid equity stocks. At that time, it was Porterfield telephone stock, and it had caused a crisis of capital within the bank. And then my great-grandfather, C.J. Walker, who was a man known for integrity and a city father, came in and took over the bank and reestablished it with his own money and moved the bank forward.
You go by the initials F&M these days, but farmers and merchants, a lot of people would say, well, I don't own a farm and I don't own a business. Why would I want to go to F&M Bank? But you do provide personal banking for the individuals as well.
Absolutely. We're both a business and a consumer bank, and our job is to safeguard depositors' monies and to run a conservative bank, and that's what we do day in, day out.
One of the things I know, I recall speaking to my late aunt and uncle who were in business in the Pasadena area, they would always refer to the building and loan. And the fact that you would put your money in there and then they would lend money to families to build homes in San Gabriel and Altadena and those local communities out there. You folks primarily do loans for more business-oriented things rather than homes as well, right?
Our loans have been more focused in the business arena, and again with a conservative flair in everything that we do. We typically have a collateral-based loans and typically lend no more than 50% of the collateral value or less. And that's one of the things that's helped farmers and merchants maintain its safety and sound posture.
So subprime loans would not be something I could get at F&M?
We never did them, thank goodness, and we never bought securities that were backed by subprime either. And it was a frivolous thing and that went on in the industry. And candidly, they were getting the banks that bought those type of mortgages or invested in those types of mortgages were only getting 50 basis points more than a safe and sound investment. And to us, it just didn't make sense. So we never entertained those type of investments.
In addition to being very careful who you lend to, you also have actually financed some rather large projects. I know the Crystal Cathedral, I believe, was you put up some of the money to help them get that started.
We have. We've participated in many community building events, and it's just one of the ways that we contribute back to the communities that we do business in.
And you're also involved, you're involved with Pacific Symphony and members of your family and various charities and good works around the Southern California area.
We see Los Angeles and Orange County as our marketplace in those communities that we serve, and that's where our focus is to continue to provide safe and sound banking in the communities of LA and Orange County.
We're hearing a lot of terms these days, and not that these impact your bank, but maybe you can help our viewers understand that, first of all, we hear although Mr. Obama and others have said this is not going to be the case, some people have been concerned about nationalizing the banks, that may come from Washington. Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, to some degree, I think it's happened when you look at the government taking 40% of Citibank. To me, that is a nationalized approach. It will be unfortunate because the government can't resist the temptation of dabbling in micromanaging the banking industry. Banking industry as a whole, the vast majority has been well regulated. They didn't regulate the securities investments. They regulated the loans that the banking industry made. They needed to focus on the securities as well. The securities are what got the big banks in trouble, and the small banks got in trouble with their loan portfolios. They needed to regulate the securities industries better for the big banks. But the nationalization I don't like, because I think the politicians will dabble in it. Fannie and Freddie were pretty well run until they started pushing on them to make more liberal loans, more liberal loans. We need to get more dollars out. And then there was an ensuing catastrophe that we've continued to watch.
Yeah.
And so,
I know we've seen politicians, the previous administration stress this. I know that sort of an American right was everybody should own a home. Maybe everybody shouldn't own a home, and maybe that's part of the problem of all this.
you know, they should own a home, but they should own it for the right price. And right now the homes are getting to the point where, you know, maybe they are the right price and they should own it. But again, I think the free market will take care of itself. Because the liberal credit was pushed out to the consumer, it caused inflation in the home prices. And so the government again caused the inflation that we had to a large degree in the home prices.
And then we saw a lot of banks basically slicing and dicing, and people would get letters saying your loan has been sold to this company or that company, and they would, it was parceled out. It became, instead of being a steak, it became sausage after a few passes, and ended up at Wall Street as a large group, and each person owned a little piece of about 100,000 homes.
That's it.
So that was, and that made part of the problem that we see today. Well, you folks aren't in that. You're not in the TARP program. You're not looking for government bailout. So hopefully you will be away from the fray when it comes to some of these issues going on. We hear about a lot of things coming up, and one that we hear some of the big banks will be going through what's called a stress test. Article today in the Los Angeles Times on it and other places. Briefly explain what that's all about. It doesn't impact you, but I think we'll be reading about it in the media.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they test the large banks. I don't know that it is entirely quantified as of yet as to how they're going to stress, but they're stressing the capital, and they're looking at the continued effects of unemployment on the banking industry and what effects that's going to have. I think in LA and Orange County we're above that 7% unemployment, and statewide we're pushing towards the 10%.
Yeah.
But there are certainly some cities that have greater unemployment. Again, the stress tests are going to start with the largest banks and then work down from there, just to see if they don't need additional capital and to again try and maintain a safe and sound financial system. Right.
For our folks that are watching that may be new to our community and looking for a bank, real briefly some of the services you folks provide right over here in our local branch.
We provide all the internet services, safe and sound banking, savings, CDs, checking products, and our charter is to run a safe and sound bank. We do so first and foremost by our capital, which sits at 15%. Which is far in excess of any of our competitors. Even the competitors that took the TARP money still have not matched their capital to ours, and we're very proud of that. We continue to be profitable, and our earnings continue to add back and build our capital. So from that aspect, we're safe and sound. We don't pay the highest rates on the CDs, and we do so to keep our institution safe and sound. I would tell your viewers, do your own investigation. Look, understand where you're putting your money, and take responsibility for where you're putting your money. If the institutions out there are paying high interest rates, they need your money and they're in trouble. There's two key elements that are very easy to look at. What's the capital of the bank, and what are they paying on their CDs? And that should be a key indicator as to whether it's safe and sound or not.
We know about the family involvement. Are there more Walkers coming along that are going to be involved in the bank?
Well, we always hope so, but it takes a passion to work in this industry. One of our Walkers works right here on Paseo de Valencia, Matthew Walker, and he's done a fine job for us, and we're quite proud. But it's a passion, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's long hours, and it's not as easy business as what it is characterized as.
Right. We thank you for your time today and for sharing some good thoughts with us and your views on the whole financial institutions. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Rob.
Good to have you with us. Mr. Henry Walker, the CEO and Vice President there with F&M Bank, and of course a branch right here on Paseo de Valencia in the Laguna Woods area. We'll be coming back with more guests right after this.